Kyle Henderson, BAMA football on YouTube, coming to you outside of Bryant-Denny Stadium. I'm literally like, my truck is in the back. I got things plugged in all over the place, but I wanted to have a show tonight. I was originally going to do a call-in show, but the power is out in my neighborhood. But I was like, you know what? There's a lot to dive into, so we're going to have our show anyways. I got the Venmo QR code at the bottom of the screen if you want to send me a tip. I appreciate it. All the support, honestly, I really, really appreciate it more than you know. Okay, so number one, let's talk about Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith is now in his third year at Alabama. I had an inside source tell me that they're really happy to see Devontae Smith getting reps at that first team safety position. And the reason is, in this day of transfer and NIL situations that are so easily just to pack up and get out of the university because you're not playing, Devontae Smith has sat tight, and look at what he's doing right now. He's repping with the first team at that safety position. So I've had a couple videos before where we have talked about the Alabama secondary, and you, of course, you know who your corners are, right? You have Terrion and you have Kool-Aid, and rightfully so. Those guys, I think, are going to be very good. And a lot of people have difference of opinions about Terrion Arnold. I'm telling you, from what I saw that last practice, Terrion Arnold has really improved, and I'm really excited to see how he continues to evolve as a player. Kool-Aid, of course, I feel that he's going to be one of the top corners in the entire country. But Devontae Smith lined up to next to freshman Caleb Downs. I love that combo. Other guys behind those two, I would imagine that you see Jalen Key, who just transferred from UAB. I think he's going to be in the rotation. Still haven't heard too much about Jake Pope. Remember, Jake Pope had that big booming hit on Jermaine Burton during the spring game. I wouldn't write off any of these guys. It's so early, and I think there's going to be a lot of rotation. But just regarding Devontae Smith, I think that I'm really excited about what he brings to the table for the Alabama Crimson Tide right now during this August training camp. At the star position, you're going to have Malachi Moore. I think Malachi Moore, from what we talked about, he's really comfortable playing that star position. And I think, you know, he's very versatile. We know that. He can play safety, but I think star is his natural position. And then you're going to also have Trey Amos. So a lot of guys in the rotation on the defensive secondary. I'm just really excited. And I wanted to start out the show talking about the defensive secondary and highlighting Devontae Smith, a player who has certainly earned that. Let's move to the inside linebackers. Jahad Campbell is a guy that I think has really jumped off the board. And if you're looking to guys that have been newcomers or guys who are certainly having a breakthrough early August, I think Jahad Campbell is one of those guys. I think him, along with Deontay Lawson, I think that's going to be a very powerful duo, right? When you look to the inside linebackers, there's not a ton of experience there, but there's a lot of guys that you can swap in and swap out. I want to know more about Kendrick Blackshire. I want to know more about where Jeremiah Alexander is going to play, Justin Jefferson, a lot of these guys at the inside linebacker position. But right now, to hear that Jahad Campbell is doing his thing is also as noteworthy as Devontae Smith getting reps with that first team. Outside linebackers, you know who those guys are going to be, Dallas Turner and Chris Broswell. Kevin Steele had a lot of positive praise for Chris Broswell. He said that he's very physical. I'm like, yeah, shocker. Outside linebackers physical, right? Like, cannot wait to see these guys chase down quarterbacks. And I think that, so when you look at the linebackers and when you look to the secondary, very confident with those guys. But who are going to be the two deep? Still haven't heard too much about Keon Keeley. We did see him in Alabama's latest practice. And, I mean, the guy looks the part. He looks like an NFL player, to be honest. So I don't know if those guys are really going to push for playing time. I would assume they probably get on the field at some capacity. Remember, freshmen don't play at Alabama. Of course they do. You have one in Caleb Downs starting in the secondary. Talking about that defensive front, I want to continue to dive more into that. Right now you have Jaheim Otis. He's going to be that big plug in the middle of the field. Jamirion Latham getting a lot of positive praise recently from Kevin Steele. And then I think notably, Justin Ebogbe is a guy who is vastly underrated. And with him healthy, I think he's played in a total of 42 games. So you look at what he brings from a veteran standpoint. Look, Alabama doesn't return a ton of vets on the defensive side. I think they return, like 5 guys that are starters, but really significant playing time if Justin Ebogbe isn't hurt. I mean, he's one of the most tenured guys in all of the SEC. He's very stoic, speaks very soft, really dialed in. I think Justin Ebogbe needs a little bit more praise. It's about the defense. I do want to emphasize Kevin Steele being added to Alabama. Listening to that press conference more in detail, Kevin Steele is an absolute great addition. I think from the wisdom standpoint, the simplistic standpoint, and just what he said in his early comments, getting back to those early fundamentals. That's what you want on the defensive side of the ball, right? It doesn't have to be complicated. We talk about that a lot of times, not because the players aren't intelligent or lack intelligence. It's just because these players are that good. It's like, go hunt down the guy with the football, wrap him up. It doesn't have to be these sophisticated, play schemes that are confusing for everybody. I mean, these guys are elite athletes going to be playing on Sunday. So really excited to see kind of that defensive philosophy being added right here to the Alabama defense. When we look to the Alabama offense, everybody wants to talk about the quarterback play. Nick Saban was actually asked about a 2-quarterback system today. It was kind of like the way that the question was worded, I think confused Coach Saban, but he was asking Coach Saban basically if there is a possibility for a 2-quarterback system. I don't think that will be the case by any means or any stretch of the imagination. I think that Coach Saban is going to find his quarterback, and that's going to be his guy that he sticks with. Now, I do feel that whoever starts that first game, and I'll go on record and say it once again, I'm very confident that Jalen Milroe will get that first start against Middle Tennessee State, and I think it will be up to him to retain that position. And I've gone on record in saying that right now I feel that Ty is the best passer, but what does that mean? Those are from a couple practices, so take it what it's worth. I mean, at the end of the day, the quarterback that has the most playing time is 100% Jalen Milroe. He played in 2 significant games last year, and we can't discount that. Against Arkansas, he held down the fort when Bryce Young went down. And then again against Texas A&M, where he actually started the game, finished with Alabama getting the dub. I know everybody talks about the turnovers. Hey, it is what it is. The guy won a football game for the University of Alabama, something that no other quarterback on the roster can say. You also have Dylan Lonergan and Eli Holsting as the young guns, and let's not forget about them. It was great to hear from Tommy Rees recently as well, talking about the Alabama offense and his philosophy. And you hear the 12 personnel. What does that mean? Well, that's using multiple tight ends. So Tommy Rees did a great job of working and utilizing those tight ends when he was at Notre Dame. I love the tight end group at Alabama. I still want to see actual game production from Amari Niblack, but I've been talking about him for quite some time. He was actually he was being split out during the practice, which was very interesting. He was coming across the field and running seam patterns, and he was catching the football. He was getting thrown to by Ty, Jalen, and Tyler Buckner, and he was catching the football. This was just literally on air, so take it for what it's worth. But a 12 personnel set, could you imagine if you have CJ Dupree and Amari Niblack out there, or Danny Lewis? Look, Danny Lewis, I know we're super excited to see CJ Dupree, and I haven't really seen a lot from the tight ends yet, but I have seen some of Danny Lewis, and my goodness, like, this dude is, I think, one of the most underrated players probably on the entire offensive side of the football, to be honest. And we can't forget about Robbie Oots. I mean, get him the ball, right? Like, what is he, 260 pounds? I think he caught a pass during the Sugar Bowl. Like, good luck tackling him, right? So with that said, I do like the tight end group, and I'm curious to see how Tommy Rees will utilize those tight ends going into this coming season. At the quarterback position, look, I mean, I really don't have much more than what I've already said through this point. Now, we will have more to report on this coming Saturday as Alabama will hold its first scrimmage of the 2023 season. That's really exciting. I mean, these guys go full out during the scrimmage time, and I think a lot of people are curious to see how these quarterbacks perform in game situations. Can they keep up that high level of intensity? Coach Saban talked about maintaining a high level of focus, and one of the interesting parts of the press conference that he said today was during Alabama's longest games last year, which were against LSU and against Tennessee. What do those have in common? Those are the 2 games that Alabama lost, and they were close to 4 hours. So maintaining that high level of concentration throughout an entire 4 quarters is super important to Nick Saban during this critical point of the fall camp season. Running back position, completely loaded, as you know. Had a good photo of Justice Haynes today. Guy is an absolute stud. He's 100% going to get significant reps this year. What does that mean, significant? I don't know. He's going to get plenty of touches, along with Jace and Roydell. But Justice Haynes is right there. I don't even think there's too far of a gap, to be honest, which is really amazing, just considering that he is a freshman. Now, the wide receiver position, had an inside source tell me that Malik Benson is going to be that guy. And we have to see it. We have to see that on the field production. You look at what Malik Benson was able to do at the junior college level. he had a ton of catches and a ton of yards. Like, this guy is a high-level player. He has speed. He comes in and out of his breaks really hard. The guy is phenomenal, to be honest. So let's see it translate into Saturdays here at the University of Alabama. Jermaine Burton, people are tough on him. I'm tough on him because when you come here, we're accustomed to seeing wide receivers that are going to the NFL. Jermaine Burton has a lot of pressure on him, to be honest, to perform at the highest level. People are going to be super critical of him. And then you have Ja'Cory Brooks, returns as one of the veterans. He was money in crunch time. You know, I don't think he gets enough praise, to be honest, but he came through when Alabama needed him against Auburn, right? And then that super sophomore group, you have Isaiah Bond, who I've been very high on. I think he's honestly probably the fastest, most electric wide receiver on this team. You have Kendrick Law, who is built kind of like a Deebo Samuel, if you will. And then you have Kobe Prentice, who played a ton last year as a freshman. Throw in Emmanuel Henderson. I think Emmanuel Henderson, we're probably sleeping on him. I think we're sleeping on Danny Lewis, and I think we're sleeping on Emmanuel Henderson 100%. I think those guys are going to perform at a very high level when they are called on this year for the Alabama Crimson Tide. The offensive line, Coach Saban was asked about Caden Proctor. He said that Caden Proctor has to continue to, maintain that high level of focus when it gets hot. Look, I picked up my daughter today at 3 p.m. The feels like was 120 degrees here in Tuscaloosa. They were out on the field at that period of time. Coach Saban said he was out the entire time for 2 hours and 30 minutes, and it is what it is. So you have to maintain that high level of focus when it gets hot. These are the dog days of summer, right? Elijah Pritchett, I think he went out with some sort of a small injury during the scrimmage, but no need to worry there. And then Coach Saban did say that he looks at Ferg, TJ Ferguson, Terrence Ferguson, but the team calls him Ferg, as a starter. Now that means at the guard position, I would assume, but he also said that he is taking reps at the center position, which is very interesting. So at the center, you have Seth Run the Damn Ball McLaughlin, you have Terrence Ferguson, and then you also have Darian Dalcourt. I want to highlight Tyler Booker. I've been doing this for a while now. Tyler Booker is the most articulate individual that I have heard from. And he said that they want to make people quit this coming year. You want that dog mentality on the offensive side of the ball. If you haven't watched that interview, go back and watch it. He'll be the right guard for this team, and I think probably the anchor of this team. And I know right next to him is J.C. Latham, an all-SEC candidate, at least in the preseason. The guy is phenomenal. I love on that right side Tyler Booker and J.C. Latham. I think that's going to be one of the best tandems in all of college football on the right side of the ball. So I like Alabama's offensive line. Yes, Caden Proctor probably going to get significant reps. I can't wait to see what he can do. Regarding the college football rankings, I would probably put Alabama behind LSU. I'd probably put Alabama behind USC. I think at the top you got to go with Georgia. Michigan returns a lot, and Ohio State. And there's nothing wrong with Alabama laying in the weeds 100%. I mean, they don't even return, a starting quarterback, right? And you look to this team and you probably have question marks at Jace McClellan. If you're not an Alabama fan, right, you're like, what does this team really return besides Nick Saban and kind of the allure of being the most dominant team in college football, or at least being accustomed to that? Look, this team is laying in the weeds for the first time in a long time, and I think that's kind of spilled over into Nick Saban having a really good, I wouldn't say he's kind of happy right now because he can use that reverse rat poison to his team during this critical time of year. Do you agree with me? Let me know inside the comment box. I'd really like to get your opinion because it seems like people are sleeping on Alabama, and I feel like other teams feel they can play with Alabama. When I got here a couple years ago, teams didn't feel like they feel now. I think Alabama went into every game as a double-digit favorite. And yeah, they're going to be a triple-digit favorite or whatever, not triple-digit, but double-digit favorite against Middle Tennessee. But you get my drift. I feel that teams like LSU, I think teams like Tennessee, I think teams like Georgia, I think other teams in the SEC feel that they can go toe-to-toe with Alabama right now. And that's a good thing for Alabama to read into during this critical summertime because they need to get out against Middle Tennessee and really, get that cohesiveness and take it into week 2 because Texas is coming. 100%. That offense is loaded. And if Quinn Ewers stays healthy, Alabama loses that game, right? You think I'm wrong? I mean, he's coming back. He's trimmed down. He's lost 20 pounds. Those wide receivers are electric. So I love, and we start off the video talking about the defensive backfield because I think it's going to be a great matchup with Texas wide receivers that they have coming in. I think that's going to be such a great week 2 showdown. Week 1 features LSU taking on Florida State. and can't wait to watch that one. But I wanted to do a live tonight from outside of Bryant-Denny Stadium. Again, I was gonna have the call-in show, but the power is out in my neighborhood, so I'll get you guys on another call-in show. I really appreciate all your support. Hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe. Let me know what you guys, if you guys have any questions regarding fall camp, I'll definitely drop. I'll get back to you inside the comment box. I always do, and I really appreciate your support. You can also hit the join button at the bottom of this video if you want to be a fan funder. My name is Kyle Henderson of BAMA Football on YouTube. This is what I do for a living, so I need your support. Thank you very much for having my back and hitting the thumbs up, and I appreciate you subscribing. I'll catch you next time right here on BAMA Football on YouTube, and coming to you from the most beautiful college football stadium in all the land, Bryant-Denny Stadium.